So the first one is by Must Be the Money, and it's titled Worst Dating Experience of My Life. About 5 or so years ago, I was 23 at the time and had just gotten out of my first and only serious relationship a year prior. That guy was my first love and my first sexual experience, and so needless to say, when things ended, he had zero interest in trying to work things out. I was heartbroken. After about a year of moping and being stupidly sexually promiscuous, I decided to try actual dating. I met this guy Rick on a dating website. He was a couple years older than me, was an ex-Marine, was cute and good at making conversation. After a few days of talking online, he asked for my number and we decided to meet up. I drove to his house and come to find out he lived with a few other guys who looked really shady. Now, he actually lived in a good neighborhood, but the way they kept their home and the way his roommates looked was my first red flag that I experienced. Naive girl would not fit in his crowd, but I decided to stay and give it a chance. Once he saw me, he came up, gave me a hug, and handed me a helmet to his motorcycle. Now, I have never in my life rode a motorcycle before, but I had always wanted to, so I thought, why not, and hopped on. Now the street he decides to take me up is known to be a very long and windy road that is pretty secluded. It's also important to note that this is the springtime and it's about 5 p.m. when we go on our ride. I didn't realize at the time he had decided to take me on that specific road, but once we got on it, my red flags started to kick in. I began to realize that 1, it is dead silent and there are no other cars on this road right now. 2, it's starting to get dark. And 3, yeah, I don't know this guy, so what the hell am I doing? And my alarm bells start ringing. I didn't realize at the time he had... Now, I will say that while I made a ton of mistakes within this story, this instance is where I am proud of how I reacted. Once my anxiety kicked in, I told him that I think we should turn around and go home. He started laughing and asked if I was scared, and I said no, I just need to head home because my parents are expecting me for dinner soon. He kept riding forward. More alarm bells ringing. Pictures of me being raped and lying dead in a ditch came up in my mind. I kept asking him, can we please turn back? Can we please turn back? And he finally gave in and turned around. The next day comes and I told myself that maybe I was just overreacting, and he was harmless and decided to agree on a second date a few days later. We met up at a sports bar for dinner and a couple of beers so we could watch the hockey game. The entire time we were sitting there, Rick had his arm around me and has me literally attached to his hip, constantly trying to make out with me, and is acting extremely possessive. At this point, I'm completely freaked out because I barely know this guy, and all he is talking to me about is our future and how he would be such a protective boyfriend because he was an ex-Marine. At this point, I stay for 5 minutes. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. We walk into his room and he immediately pounces on me, making out with me and trying to feel me up. I kept pushing his hands away and kept telling him that I needed to get going, but I could tell he wasn't going to give up until he got what he wanted. Especially after I realized his little friend was aroused. He told me that he would not let me leave until we did something. I had no idea what he would have forced me to do if I kept rejecting his advances. So I decided that my only way out there was to finish him off. So I did. The entire time I'm trying to act like I'm enjoying it while dying inside and hoping he would hurry up and finish so I could quickly leave. Luckily, I only used my hands, and luckily it took him a few minutes to finish before I literally ran out of that door and sped home. After that night, he tried to ask me to hang out again, and I told him that I think it would be best if we stayed friends. This guy began to relentlessly call me and text me and beg me to see him, then proceeded to call me a bitch because I was ignoring him, then would apologize for calling me a bitch, and said it was because he liked me so much. So I blocked him. Then he tried to message me on Instagram. So I blocked him there, then on Facebook, and finally on Snapchat. So, Rick, please, let's never meet again. I cannot stand guys who are so pushy like that and make girls feel so unsafe. I really hope the OP is okay, because what happened to her was technically it was assault because she was forced to do something she didn't want to do because she was scared of him, and that's not okay. So I really hope that she is healing from that. Okay, this next story is by Pristine-Abroad-8913. It is titled, "A Guy I Talked to on a Dating Site Showed Up at My Job." This story kind of creeped me out. It happened about 9 years ago and sometimes comes to my mind. So, I was on an adult dating site, one of the fetish types. I know, don't judge me, I was just looking for some fun. Anyway, I was stupid and gave out more information than I should have. I was chatting with a guy. He had asked me at some point what I did for work. At the time I was working at a McDonald's, so I told him. He asked which one. I stupidly told him which one. We chatted off and on. We hadn't been chatting for too long. I also stupidly gave him my phone number at some point. He would talk about how he wanted to meet me on my break and have some fun on my break. I told him no thanks, I don't bring my lifestyle to my job. Anyway, so I checked my messages just before I was due to clock out of work. Luckily I did. He mentioned that he was at my job and told me what he ordered. I think it was the Big Mac meal. I was like, okay, well, don't expect me to do anything with you. I'm not interested. He then got upset and wasn't accepting that I wasn't interested. I was also scared because I had sent him a face picture of myself, but I had never received one from him. I really wasn't interested in him, so I decided I didn't need a face picture since I likely wasn't going to meet up with him. His interests weren't what I was looking for, and I have a hard time straight up saying I'm not interested, and just slowly started to ghost whoever I have no interest in. Now, luckily, I hadn't told him my work schedule, so he didn't know that I was about to clock out. So, after clocking out, I told one of my managers that I was on a dating site and some guy just showed up to my work, and I have no idea what he looks like, and that I was going to hang out in the back in the break room for a bit. Luckily, she didn't judge me and was just like, oh, okay. So I waited about half an hour before I left. I didn't have a car at the time and had to walk home, and I was afraid he would see me and try to pick me up in his car. Luckily, no one followed me, so I was in the clear. So, creepy guy, let's never meet. I don't think he ever messaged me, or I ended up blocking him or something. I don't know if this is really all that creepy, but it creeps me out that some random person just decided that he would show up to my job and expect me to want to meet up with him. So yeah, now I just gave a vague response as to where I work now. I don't work in the same town I live in, so it would be hard to pinpoint my exact location. This opened my eyes and made me more aware of the information I give out to strangers. I'm really glad the OP ended up being safe, and I'm glad that they are now more aware of the dangers of sharing personal information with people they don't really know, because there are so many horror stories out there due to giving out personal information. So I'm glad it all turned out okay. But yeah, definitely creepy to just show up, especially after the OP had basically rejected his advances multiple times. This next one is by Ozzy Bell and is titled "Guy Stalks Me for Rejecting Him Without Even Making It to a Single Date." I posted this story as a comment on another post in the subreddit because I thought it was a similar story and was encouraged to share it as its own post. So I've just copied and pasted it with a few tweaks. Met a guy online, talked for a day or two, but I was at the tail end of my degree, and things were getting to be a lot, so I decided no dating until I was done. I let the handful of guys that seemed nice know before deleting the dating app, so they would know why I deleted it and wouldn't think I ghosted them. He happened to be online when I sent it and said I seem cool, can we keep in touch? Sure, no worries. Add him on Facebook. Maybe once a week he's like, hey, how are you? What are you up to? Normal conversation stuff. I chat about uni, work, gym, whatever. After maybe 2 to 3 months, he's like, hey, we've been chatting for a bit, let's grab coffee. And I'm like, yeah, sure, he seems nice enough. I reiterated it would be as friends, and that was fine with him. I was about to head into exams, so we made plans for in 3 weeks' time after I finished the exams. He started messaging me more and more regularly after making just wanted to make sure that we were still on the same page, so I just said, "Hey, you keep calling it a date. Just making sure we are clear, it's just a catch up as friends." He snapped. He was sending me all sorts of horrible things on Facebook, so I blocked him. I gave him my number when we made plans though, so he started calling and calling, leaving voicemails. It was late, so I put my phone on silent and went to sleep. Next morning, I wake up to 37 missed calls and voicemails between 10 p.m. continuing until 4 a.m., as well as a multitude of horrible texts. Now this was 7 years ago when you couldn't just block someone on a phone. At first I thought if I ignored him he would get bored. After about a week he wasn't slowing down, with dozens of calls a day. I called my phone company to have him blocked. They said you can only block 3 people, are you sure? I had to jump through all the hoops and they turned around and said they can't do it. I have to call the police. So I call the police and they say I have to call the phone company, but I can make a statement of harassment in case he does something more. 3 weeks later, he's still going strong, but in his text he starts saying he's going to force me to go on a date with him. I won't have a choice, blah blah blah. Then he starts saying that if I won't come to him, he will come to me, and is telling me my schedule with where I will be at any given time, which he put together based on our weekly conversations about normal stuff, threatening to come to where I will be. I have to stop doing my regular activities and pretty much become a hermit. He ended up making a threat to my life. I can't remember what he said word for word, but it was essentially, "Girls like you get what they deserve," or something like that. But more clearly threatening, he would be the one to make it happen. I contacted the police again, and that was enough for an RVO, and I never heard from him again. Oh, and I was 20, but his pictures looked younger, so I didn't realise online, but it turned out this guy was 34. So this wasn't dumb young kid behaviour, this was a grown-ass man. I've had many other psychos since this guy, but I am very grateful phones have since allowed you to block anyone, anytime. Edit. It was meant to say VRO, which is a violence restraining order off the top of my head. Just the Aussie version of a restraining order. That one to me is really scary. I can't imagine not being able to just block somebody. That would be really frightening while being harassed. I have been harassed online by men, specifically older men, and I'm very grateful that I have always just had the ability to block them, because that would genuinely scare me so much and set me on edge constantly. If my phone was constantly going off with calls and texts from them, that can't be good for anybody's mental health. I would be so paranoid. So I'm glad after he made that threat, the OP managed to get a restraining order, and I hope that they never meet him again. This next one is by Alex Stunning, and it's titled, "To My Troubled Tinder Date, Let's Not Meet Again." was pretty intoxicated one night, was feeling social, and decided to call an Uber to his place. Once I got there, we talked outside for a while, and ended up vibing even better in person. I opened up to him about my health problems, and he opened up to me about his older sister who had passed away from a similar condition to mine. I was curious about his sister, but I definitely didn't want to pry. We walked into his house and it smelled like 1,000 dead rats were rotting under the floorboards. I was still pretty drunk, so I tried to forgive it because, hey, sometimes animals die under a house or in the walls, and there's nothing you can really do about it. I start to look around and the whole house looks like a cluttered storage unit. He takes me to his room, which is seemingly normal, kind of feminine, but that's cool, and we hook up. I end up falling asleep there and woke up around 10 a.m. to the stench of death. I opened my eyes feeling very sober and started to look around the room. I noticed that only girls' clothes were hung in his closet. I start to assume I've possibly been cheated with. Then I see a giant black binder on his nightstand. When he woke up, I decided to jokingly ask him, "What's in that giant binder?" Turns out it was every single episode of Golden Girls printed out. He said he read it at work and it's the only show he'll ever watch. Okay. I asked him what he did for work, something I definitely should have known by this point, and he dodged the question. I sat up and I looked at the pillow I'd been cozily sleeping on. It had no pillowcase and was covered in what looked like to be old blood. It looked like the blood had been coughed onto it. I started putting the unpleasant pieces together. I asked as sensitively as I could, "Hey, was this your sister's room? I noticed the clothes in the closet." He says, "Yeah, this is her bed. I haven't changed or washed anything. It just makes me feel better to be in her bed. This is actually where I held her when she died, and you remind me so much of her. I really, really like you." And then casually tried to hook up with me like he didn't just drop unsettling news. I felt immensely sorry for him, but needed to get out of there. I made some excuse and left. I decided to not entirely ghost him, because of how bad I felt for him. He was clearly dealing with some really dark stuff. We kept in contact for a few weeks until I went on my Find My Friends app and noticed that he had clearly taken my phone while I was asleep that night and shared my location with himself. I called him and went off. This was not my first rodeo with a stalker type, and I was not dealing with it. He told me he couldn't believe I thought he would do that, and I'm being a really terrible person by dumping him because his cat had recently died. I blocked him after that. After he said that about his cat, combined with his tendency to hold on to things, it really makes me wonder what that smell actually was. Let's hope not, and though I hope he gets help, let's not meet again. Edit. I found out from a mutual friend that his sister passed away around 10 years prior to this. Edit 2. I forgot to mention this, but he was strangely turned on while I was using a nebulizer with my inhaler. He said his sister had one of those. I am 100% sure this turned him on. Edit 3. I'm pretty sure he uses Reddit, and I didn't know this post was going to get this popular, so I'm kind of scared now, but oh well. Edit 4. Golden Girls was on the whole time I was over. I don't know how. was definitely very creepy and awful behavior on his part. Especially, going through her phone and turning on her location so he can find her. And it is very weird and very wrong, and also like unclean for him to take her into his sister's old bed with dry blood and stuff. That's a total biohazard. It's very obvious that this guy has issues that he needs to work through. But yeah, I hope, like Yobi said, I hope he gets the help he needs, but that kind of behavior isn't okay, and it is very concerning. Is by Deleted, and it's titled My Tinder Date Tried to Kill Me. So hey guys, I've been lurking on this sub for like 2 years, and thanks to the wonders of online dating, I finally have quite the story to share with you. I use Tinder pretty frequently, and it's usually cool, just meeting people, chilling, smoking with most of them. So I match with this dude named Charlie, and he seems cool. He's really cute, and he plays music, which is really appealing to me, as I also sing and play piano. We talk for a little while, and I agree to meet him at his house. Mistake number 1. Boo and moo the cats. Why did I think it was a good idea to meet a stranger in their home? I don't drive, so I take an Uber over, and it's a decent way away, so it's kind of pricey. When he buzzes me into the apartment complex, I got this really creepy vibe, but I shook it off as nerves. I go up to the 3rd floor, and he's standing at the door. Things are cool, we're just chilling. We smoked a couple of bowls and we're watching a movie. So he makes a move on me and I go with it. We end up on the bed and we're obviously engaging in adult activities. When out of nowhere he wraps his hands around my neck hard. Now that's all fine and good with me. I mean, I can dig that in the right setting. But alone in a stranger's house when he didn't even check to see if it was cool is not one of those settings. So I literally can't breathe, and I'm fairly certain I'm turning blue at this point. And he is just relentless. Not only is he asphyxiating me, he's now yelling in my face, "Are you scared?" with this wild look in his eyes, and I'm like, fuck, yes, I am scared. You are trying to kill me right now. I started to struggle and he was gripping even harder. I'm not even kidding you guys, I seriously thought I was going to die. By some miracle, I wriggle out of his grasp and start screaming. He's yelling at me to calm down, and I'm frantically trying to put on my clothes. He grabs my wrist as I'm trying to leave, and I use all my strength to pull away and slam the door. As it was closing, the charming fella bid me adieu with the words, "fucking cunt." I get home and look in the mirror, and I have hella bruises on my neck. I try to cover it up with makeup to no avail. I straight up look like I was almost strangled to death. Then he texts me saying, "I think you need more than one dick." And I'm like, "Oh really? You want to bring a friend and kill me together? How lovely." Anyways, I blocked him and reported him on Tinder. I wish I could have done more because I seriously think he would have killed me. I've been debating going to the police, but the bruises are gone, and it's a he said, she said thing. But I'm really starting to wonder if I should, because the next girl might not be so lucky. 0 out of 10 would not be attempted murdered again. Crazy strangle stops and someone else goes to the police, then it's more of a case built up against him because multiple people have now made statements. So yeah, I would definitely go to the police. Okay. This next one is familiar by familiar dash emphasis 422. It's titled "A Random Guy Saved Me from Being Drugged." This happened this Saturday, 2 days ago. I'm a 19-year-old freshman at uni who moved from a fairly small town to a big city. There was a guy I talked to over Tinder for around 2 weeks. He was cute and seemed nice. We had a lot in common. He even studied at the same university. He was older though. He already had a degree and was now doing postgrad. The first time we ever met, we went out to grab a coffee on Monday, exactly a week ago. I had a great time, and when he asked me if I'd like to get drinks, drinking age here is 18, on Saturday, I happily said yes. We'd met up at a local bar and talked without a moment of awkwardness for 2 hours. We rarely clicked. I had to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, a man was waiting for me outside the toilet. He stopped me and told me the guy sitting at my table put something in my drink and asked if I wanted him to call the police. I thanked him but said no, everything's fine, and went back to my table. I really liked the guy and wanted to believe that the random man was just pranking me. Still, I wasn't willing to risk it, so I told him directly what happened. I said, "I'm sorry. This sounds insane, but after I got out the bathroom, some random guy told me you put something in my drink." He laughed and said that's insane, as if we were giggling at the situation together. He wasn't serious about it at all. I apologized and said I don't think he did that, not at all, but I'd be much more at peace if he chucked my drink just so I know the random guy was pranking me, because nothing like this has ever happened to me before. I apologized again and said the drinks are on me. And I'm very sorry to make the situation awkward. He said that's absolutely not a problem. He just has to go pee first. I waited. After 15 minutes, I realized he's not coming back. I waited around for a little longer, and after half an hour, I paid and went home. Upon getting home, I checked my Tinder and saw I deleted his account. Okay, maybe he thought I'm so insane or date made him delete the app. Still, it bothered me. I googled him and found nothing. Today I went to the records office at my uni and asked if a person with his name was studying here. The lady working there told me that's private information she can't share. I then asked if a person with this name has ever obtained a degree from this university. She looked it up and told me that no one with this name has ever obtained a degree here. He lied to me. He told me he did his undergraduate degree at my uni. He hasn't. Or, alternatively, he gave me a fake name. I'm now sure that he had terrible intentions and did spike my drink. I was more than lucky that someone noticed. I have no idea what he'd do to me had I drank that, and I don't really want to know. I'm still a bit creeped out by the situation. I did delete Tinder, and I'm very glad I didn't give him my phone number or my address. He did offer to pick me up, and I cleverly said no, yet dumbly told him that the coffee place we met up is walking distance from my apartment. seriously doubt he even gave me his real name. To the random Tinder guy who lied to me and probably tried to drug me, let's not meet. And to the kind man who made me aware of the situation, thank you very much. That is so scary. That is so scary. Like the fact that she asked him to chug the drink and he immediately knocked out is the scariest thing ever. Like, that would immediately give me the heebie-jeebies, like goosebumps. I would have called the police though. Get them to take the drink to confirm it was drugged, and see if you could get CCTV footage of him from the bar or from cameras near the bar, because he's very clearly a danger. But I understand just wanting to move past the situation and stuff. Okay, this is gonna be the last one. It includes a link to a news article, so if you want to check that out, it will be in the description. It's by Danica Darkhand. The title is I Was Driven Home from My Boyfriend's House Dozens of Times by Thomas Edward Luther, a rapist and serial killer, when I was 15. Back in the mid-90s, while I was living in Colorado, I was dating the son of Deborah Snyder. Deb was the girlfriend of murderer Thomas Luther. This man raped, beat, and murdered several women in West Virginia and Colorado. He assaulted most violently one of the victims with the business end of a hammer. He was always very nice and never gave me the creeps. I wonder if because I was dating his girlfriend's son, that is why nothing bad happened to me. Anyway, once it came out about who he was and what he had done, I was in complete shock. My mum almost had a heart attack thinking that her baby girl was that close to a monster. My boyfriend never had a close relationship with his mum, and this drove them further apart. Deb was always defending Tom, and while admitting he did bad things, she still loved him. Still gives me the chills to this day thinking